So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spike Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, because we are getting close now, because it's almost Christmas Day, I'm doing another Christmas film review, and actually it's my final Christmas film review for 2024. And so in today's podcast, I'm reviewing probably the ultimate Christmas classic, which is of course It's a Wonderful Life. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? It's a Wonderful Life. So this film was released in 1946 and was directed by the great Frank Capra and stars the late great James Stewart. And this was one of those films that I had seen quite a few years back. I remember my parents showing me this film one Christmas. It may have been on Christmas Eve, like, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago now. And I didn't know what to expect. I'd never heard of the film. I wasn't really into film back then. And I remember sitting down to watch the film, being completely absorbed in it for about the 2-hour runtime that it was on. I think the film's actually 2 hours and 10 minutes, but you get the point I'm making. I was just completely swept up by the film. And I usually didn't like black and white films back then. I'm now grown to like a lot more black and white movies, but back then I was a bit more, I didn't like them that much. I would often go out my way to not watch a black and white film, so me sitting down to watch It's a Wonderful Life was quite a big deal for me back then, back however many years ago it was. But I haven't really seen the film since then, and I decided this morning to check the film out, to rewatch It's a Wonderful Life to see if it's still held up for me and if it's still as good as so many people say. And you know what? I'm just going to cut to the chase on this one. I'm going to try and not make this a long review. I promise myself that, because I've got so much on right now, as everyone does around this time of the year. So I'm just going to cut to the chase on this review. This film is perfect. I absolutely love it. This is the perfect Christmas movie, and I've titled this podcast today, I put the question in the title of this podcast today: is this the best Christmas movie ever made? And I think there's definitely an argument for it being one of the best Christmas movies ever made. I personally wouldn't say it is the best Christmas movie ever made. I would probably lean more towards Muppets Christmas Carol, again, personally. But if someone said to me, It's a Wonderful Life is the best Christmas film ever made, I wouldn't disagree with them. I wouldn't have any harsh words to say to them whatsoever, because it is a perfect film. The amazing thing about this movie is that it's not just a perfect Christmas film, it's also a perfect film, as I've just said. You can take the Christmas out of it and it still works well, and it still works so well. But at the same time, you put the Christmas elements in there and it works even better. This is one of those films that makes you want to live. That's one of the great things about it. It's just that good, and it taps into something I think everybody has sort of grappled with at this time of the year, around, the Christmas season. This whole idea of being depressed, this whole idea of wanting to end your life because of the way things haven't gone for you over the past however many years, or even over the past year. And I know sometimes I felt that way. I know there's been Christmases in the past where I have felt depressed, and I was watching this film and I started to get this feeling with it, like, yeah, I completely understand where all these characters are coming from. This still feels relevant today, even so this film was made all the way back in the 1940s. It was made in 1946, the year after the war ended. And by the way, that is quite important, because there's all these subtext about World War II in this movie, which I think is very important and makes the film even better. But yeah, even so this film was made God knows how many years ago now, 70, 80 years ago. I'm never that good at maths. But anyway, get the point I'm making. Even though this film was made in the 1940s, it's still relevant to us now. It has aged beautifully, and I mean beautifully with a capital B, because it's still relevant to us. I think everybody around this time of the year has those feelings. Maybe not as much as James Stewart's character does, but I think everybody around this time of the year can get depressed or has got depressed at least one Christmas in their lives, or will do later on in their lives. And I think that's what makes this film so relatable. And that's what makes the character of George Bailey, played by James Stewart, so empathetic in this film, because you can relate to him. You completely see where he's coming from, and this film tapped into all those things that we know about Christmas, all the main themes about Christmas. It kind of personifies Christmas. I mean, it doesn't kind of do that. It does personify Christmas. All the things we know about Christmas, the whole idea of coming together and just forgetting about each other's troubles around this time of the year and just being in each other's company no matter what. It explores that in such a way that is so heartwarming, and this idea of just enjoying the little things, enjoying what we've got, especially around this time of the year. And that's so well shown in this movie. There's all these things like that in this film that truly makes it a great Christmas movie, and also a great movie as a whole. I mean, I was actually surprised when I was rewatching it this morning how little the film is set at Christmas. I mean, there's still a whole section of the film which is set at Christmas. It starts at Christmas, and then about an hour and a half into the movie, it's Christmas again. But there's about an hour and a half of this film, or at least an hour and 10 minutes, because I paused the film to go to the loo. I was watching it downstairs on my television. Yeah, there's about an hour and 10 minutes which isn't set at Christmas. But at the same time, though, this film has become synonymous with Christmas. This is one of those films that everybody talks about watching at Christmas. And you can completely see why, because it gives you those Christmas feels. And you can totally relate to George Bailey going through all the seasons early on in the movie. Then when you get to the Christmas period, and when all the things start to go wrong for him, and then when he almost commits suicide, which is quite dark, by the way. This is a very dark film. When he goes through all that in the film, it just makes that ending so much more heartwarming. I mean, it's heartwarming with a capital H. It really is. And it's a type of Christmas film that makes you smile with the biggest grin on your face. I mean, the feeling I got after finishing this movie early today is unlike the feeling I've had finishing really any Christmas movie over the past couple of years. Maybe Muppets Christmas Carol with an exception there, but there's some Christmas movies you watch, like earlier this year, about a month ago, maybe not even that, but a couple of weeks ago on this channel, I reviewed How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and I thought that was a really enjoyable film. But I also think if you take the Christmas out of that movie, it doesn't work the same. Same with the Polar Express, which I actually really like. Same with, I don't know, off the top of my head, maybe Scrooged, although that wouldn't really work if you take the Christmas out of it. Scrooge is, in its ingredients, a Christmas film. So is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and so is The Polar Express. However, if those films released any other time of the year, the point I'm making is I don't think they would be as beloved, or maybe not as beloved, but I don't think they would be considered great films. You know what I mean? Hopefully you do. I don't know if I've explained myself well there, but I think It's a Wonderful Life is one of those films you could watch at any time of the year, and it would still really work for you. I don't think this is just a great Christmas movie, as I've already said. I think it's a great movie because of how well it is written, how well it is directed. This is such a well-directed film. I was so engaged in just the way Frank Capra staged and shot so many scenes of the movie. I love all the characters. They feel so real. This feels like you're actually watching... The whole film feels like you're actually watching somebody's life. And I love how everything in the film just feels so authentic. And you don't get that with so many Christmas movies. I think it's perfect. And rewatching it earlier today, I couldn't believe how much I got into it and how much I was really enjoying it and engaged with it, and how it made me feel really Christmassy at its end. Because I always speak about that in regards to Christmas movies. They've got to make you feel Christmassy. And when a Christmas movie doesn't do that, that's its biggest crime. But this movie did that in spades. And it's not predominantly a Christmas film. I mean, it is a Christmas film, don't get me wrong, but it's not all set at Christmas, is the point I'm making. And yet the ending truly makes you feel Christmassy. I mean, I felt Christmassy after watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I spoke about that in my review of that film, but I felt even more Christmassy after finishing this movie. You know, my Christmas spirit has been going a bit up and down over the past week or so, but after I finished this film this morning, I really do feel like Christmas is almost here. I have the feels, and I think you can tell with a huge grin on my face. You know, Christmas is my favourite time of the year, and this film has really made me want to appreciate Christmas this year. And I wish I watched it over the past couple of years, you know, because I hadn't. And over the past couple of years, I've been feeling when I get to Christmas Day, like, I don't know, my heart's just not in it as much as I want it to be. I love Christmas, it's my favourite time of the year, but over the past couple of years, I haven't been feeling it as much. Whilst this year, and I think it's because of this film, I am feeling Christmas again. My heart is back in it. You know, I'm now full of all this Christmas excitement to the point that I am going to wear my Christmas hat for the rest of this review. Yeah. That's the power of a great Christmas movie. And I truly do think this is a great Christmas movie. I mean, I think it's better than great. I do think it's just perfect. It flies by in its runtime. The characters all feel so real. The performances feel so real as well. There's an authenticity with this movie which makes the story feel so believable, and I think makes it also so relatable. You know, this could be anybody's story, and I love that about this film. I love the message it explores. I love how it makes you feel Christmassy, and I love how dark it gets as well, because every single Christmas movie, every great Christmas movie every great Christmas movie needs to have a dark element in there. Why do you think you have the ghost of Christmas future in the Christmas Carol story? You know, it's to add that darkness in there, so it makes the relief, so it makes the joy at the end of the story feel so much more joyful, and that's exactly what this film has. You know, the whole sequence of the film where George Bailey's seeing what his life would be like if he didn't exist. I mean, it's a genius idea, because we've all thought about that at some point in our lives. I know I definitely have. You know, what would the world be like if I didn't exist? Would people's lives still be affected? And this film shows that, yes, it would still be affected if you didn't exist. And sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, there's so many times in life when you need that message. And I think I needed that message over the past couple of years, over the past couple of Christmases, and I think I kind of needed it again this Christmas. And watching this film made me realise that, yes, you know what, I do matter around this time of the year, and I am making a difference. And that whole idea of, you know, what would your life be like, what would other people's lives be like if you weren't in them, you know what I mean, is explored perfectly in this film. And it's also very dark when you see that the other people who are around George Bailey, when you see what their lives are like when he is not in their lives, you know. And I think every great Christmas story has a darkness in there, and this is a dark film when you think about it. You know, a main character almost commits suicide. There's a war that happens in this film, and there's definitely a subtext surrounding World War II, particularly because I think James Stewart served in World War II, and I heard somewhere that scene where he's crying in the bar is because of how he was still suffering from war depression. And so there is a darkness with this movie, but that makes it all the more engrossing, and all the more engaging, and all the more joyful when you get to the end of the film, because when you get to the end of this film, and when everything works out for George Bailey and his family and his bank where he works, you can't help but smile and feel like Christmas is here, you know? And that's what I felt like when I finished this movie earlier today. Yeah. I absolutely love It's a Wonderful Life. And I do think not only is it a perfect Christmas movie, I also think it's a perfect movie. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that It's a Wonderful Life. You might have already guessed what I'm going to give this film, so I'm going to come out and see it. I'm going to say that It's a Wonderful Life is a 10 out of 10. Yes, that's how I'm going to finish reviewing films this year on this channel. I'm going to give my last film review of 2024 a 10 out of 10. God, this movie is so good, and I forgot how good it was. I forgot how well plotted it was and how well written it was. It hasn't aged. And I review movies on this channel from like the 90s or the 80s, and you can tell they've aged. This movie came out in the 40s. It hasn't aged. I mean, it is like... Yeah, this is one of the best Christmas movies of all time, and it might be the best Christmas movie of all time. Personally, I would probably lean more towards Muppets Christmas Carol, as I've already said, but, you know, this is a close second. I love it. Sorry if this review has been a complete mess, but I'm so busy right now and I haven't had the time to prep for this review, but I watched It's a Wonderful Life this morning. I wanted to talk about it on the channel because the feeling I got after watching the movie, because of how it made me feel, because it made me feel excited about Christmas again. It made me feel worthwhile, you know, and that is the power of a phenomenal film. That's the power of a just brilliant Christmas movie, and that's exactly what this film is. It's a perfect Christmas movie, and I think it's one of those films that everybody should watch at least once in their lives, particularly around this time of the year. So, as I've already said, and as I'm going to say once more in today's podcast, It's a Wonderful Life is a 10 out of 10 for me. Anyway guys, Merry Christmas, and that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen It's a Wonderful Life, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this video, and look forward to my final video of 2024 coming out either tomorrow or within the next couple of days on this channel. But until then guys, thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast, as I've already said, and I will see you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye.